it's just amazing. So I'm not going to read a terrible amount today because I'm running out of time. But Genesis 10, verse 1. This is the account of the families of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, the 3 sons of Noah. Many children were born to them after the great flood. So each one of them had a great many children. So when God told them to go forth and multiply, they obliged. They obeyed. And when God tells us to go have babies, He's telling us to go have babies because it's a good and healthy thing, and babies are precious. So we're not supposed to wait until we're really, really old and maybe have 1 kid or 2 because it's too expensive. God doesn't say wait until your finances match. He says go have babies. Okay? So the descendants of Japheth were Gomer, Magog, Madai, Madai, Javan, Tubal. Remember, he was named after Tubal and Tubal-Cain. Meshech, and Tiras. The descendants of Gomer, so he had 7 boys. I'm sure the girls are not listed as well because remember, we're going through the male genealogy, the male line. The descendants of Gomer, Japheth's firstborn son, were Ashkenaz, which is probably where the Ashkenazi Jews come from, but I'm not 100%. I'd have to go back and look at the video again. And Riphath and Togarmah. I'm butchering the names, I'm sure. The descendants of Javan, who is number 4th in line, were Elisha, Tarshish, which is where we get Tarshish from in the story of Jonah. Remember, he ran away to Tarshish. Well, this is the town that was named after him. Kittim and Rodanium. Rodanium. Oh, let me see. It could also read as Dodanium. I am totally butchering it, and I apologize. The pronunciation. Their descendants became the seafaring peoples that spread out to various lands, each identified by its own language, clan, and national identity. Okay, so Japheth, these people, his took to the sea, and they were explorers, and they created new lands, and they created new countries, and that's pretty amazing. They were courageous because it's either that or they just couldn't stand the family. I'm thinking they're more courageous, though. And they had that desire in them that God gave them to just go and seek out new lands. When you read Laura Ingalls Wilder books, she talks about how her father just had this longing to go and see what was over the next hill. Some people have that built in them still to this day. That's why some people climb Mount Everest. And some do it without oxygen, which is pretty crazy. But people, they challenge themselves, and they thrive on having that challenge and meeting that challenge and going across the sea. The seas back then were much more dangerous than they are now because they were unknown, they were uncharted, and the whole world had been ripped apart. So everything was new, and to be able to successfully navigate the seas, well, first you have to build a ship. That in of itself is a massive undertaking. And to have something that can sail to other lands, that is quite phenomenal. Especially if they made it across from one continent to another continent, all those thousands of miles. Like the Pilgrims, it took them 6 months, I think it was, to go from England to the New World. Or was it Holland and the New World? I forget. They came, separate ones came from different places, but I think the Mayflower came from England to Holland and then here, if I remember correctly. If not, I apologize. But so these were pretty amazing, courageous people, and they're worth remembering. Even though genealogy can be so dry because you don't have a lot of details of their lives, you still have this small detail, and it tells you so much in a short sentence of what they did and how they were and where they were and what, I mean, they had languages and they had clans and identities. This was before the Tower of Babel, where they went and had all this new stuff. And God told them, go forth and multiply, and go fill the world. And these guys, they did. They went. Not everybody went. Some stayed, and that's what part of the Tower of Babel issue was. They were disobeying God. They were trying to be God. They just wanted to hang out and have comfortable lives. These ones who spread out to various lands and were seafaring, that's not an easy life, especially back in the day. There was no electricity. There was no climate control. There were no pre-mapped out charts of any kind. You find a reefy shoal, a terrible, you go into an inlet and there's rocks and your ship's dashed upon it and you have shipwrecks, and there was no cell phone or satellite phone to call anybody, and no emergency signal to send anyone. You were alone, and that was incredibly courageous and amazing feats to deal and to do in those days. So we are going to end there tonight or today, however you, whenever you see this. But keep in mind, these people were valuable. They were precious. They were amazing in their own right. And some of them were truly evil in the Bible. And the Bible is very honest about those who are godly, those who are evil. And that's one thing that is very amazing, is that God tells us the truth. And He doesn't tell us every little detail of the truth, but He gives us so much information condensed into just a few sentences, which is beautiful. And we don't need the whole detailed truth. We don't need it. We will fixate on the unimportant things. God told us the things that are most important for us to know. And one of the most important things for us to know is the descendants of Noah, the genealogy. So, until I see you next time, be blessed.